Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the weekly message from Spirit. It's so good to be back. It's been too long. So I was not here the last 2 weeks because I was in Namibia and doing some work there, and I had a little bit of a holiday. Although we were so busy traveling, it feels like I need a break. So I suppose that's what it's like. Anyway, welcome, welcome, welcome to this week's weekly message from Spirit. It really is good to be back with you, and I'm looking forward to connecting with all of you and seeing what it is that comes forward tonight. So it's quite an auspicious date today. So from a numerology perspective, it is the 9th of the 9th in the year 2019, which is technically not a 9-year, but 3-year, but still 9-9. And so if we have a look also at what's happening from an astrology perspective and where we are in the cycle of the moon, today becomes an opening of a portal for karmic release. And we have quite a lot of opportunity for healing karma. And karma is not a punishment scheme. It's an opportunity for releasing, and it's an opportunity for balancing things out. So there may well be a tendency tonight for us to look at what is it that you need to break up with. Yeah, it's break up time. It's time to break up with anything that is not serving you. That could be a sabotaging idea or belief or thought. It could be a specific behavior or pattern. What is it that you need to break up with and release, and let that flow? So the crystal that came forward tonight is a beautiful crystal, one of my personal favorites. I think I say that all the time. I really do, but it's petrified wood. So this is the most magnificent piece of petrified wood here. And what makes this one really beautiful is it's got still this sort of physical, you can see the sort of raw wood on this side, and then it's been polished and petrified on this side. It's petrified wood normally comes in these sort of slabs. And the way petrified wood is created is it's trees that have been fossilized through being covered under earth. And so we get an amazing amount of perspective when we work with petrified wood. And I ran a crystal masterclass, and this weekend we had a workshop around, well, we had one of the masterclass around healing earth, and petrified wood came forward as one of the crystals for that workshop, and really all about releasing karma. So it is perfectly appropriate that it came forward tonight as the crystal for us to work with. Isn't it magnificent? You can just feel the wisdom. Absolutely beautiful to work with. Right, so let us see what messages are coming forward tonight. So as always, I'm going to do 3 cards. Thank you, Andrew. It's nice to be back. Yeah, it was weird not being online and not doing this. It was a kind of weird experience. Mondays took on a different feeling. So I'm going to take 3 cards. I'm going to connect with the guides and ask them to come forward and bring forward only messages that serve the highest good for anyone who hears these messages tonight or at any point in the future. If you can't listen to the messages here, you can always subscribe to my YouTube channel, and the messages are always posted there on a Tuesday morning. So the archives or the libraries are there, so you can go back and listen to them if you'd like to. The 3 cards, as always, that I'm going to pick is what do we need to pay attention to this week, holding in mind the portal that I've spoken about in terms of it being a 9-9 day and this releasing karma. Is so what do we need to pay attention to this week? What support is available this week, and what opportunities for us to bring forward more light to earth exist this week? So we kind of finding ourselves at a time where there's a lot of turmoil at the moment. This karmic release is a big thing. Like, what are the patterns and the stories and the behaviors that we need to break up with and release? And so let us see what it is they want to tell us. If you would like to share this out with the groups and friends, that would be awesome. I always appreciate that, so that more people can receive the messages that they need at this time. Okay. Right. I can't make this up. The card, what do we need to pay attention to this week? The card is let yourself feel the pain. Let yourself feel the pain. So holding in mind this idea that this is a period of time for karmic release and releasing our wounds from the past is one of the things that we do not realize we do sometimes, is how we cycle our pain. And we cycle our pain because it almost feels too difficult to process it. So if we think of something that gets processed, we move through it. When we cycle it, we process it, like we relive it all the time. And there's a real distinction between reliving and cycling in something and processing it so that it can move. I often use this metaphor when I'm doing healing work and training, particularly when I'm teaching people to be to be healers and to step into their healing ability, is that a lot of the time what has happened is we've had something painful or something difficult or something that we don't want to face or something that's happened. And if we imagine sort of a glass of water and that would be dirt in the water, what's happened is the dirt is all settled to the bottom. And so the water looks clean. In other words, our system feels okay. But in order to, at the bottom, we've got this sediment, we've got this toxicity, so to speak, this darkness. And so what we need to do is we need to rumble it up. And when we do that, we have to like provoke something so that all that sand comes up. And then we need to get it out rather than just suppress it back down. And in order to get it out, we have to, there's almost a process of fighting, of sometimes of tears, sometimes of expressing it through written or through words, through just getting it out, saying the things and feeling the things that we've just never wanted to feel. And in order to do that, we do need to make sure we're safe and supported. What I mean by that is we're always safe and supported, but to do that in the appropriate spaces with the healers and therapists and friends and coaches and people in the world that can hold the space, the create a space that's almost like a place for that pain to be expressed. And most people think that this is about reliving it. It's not. Actually, by suppressing it, we relive it. We just cycle. So it's about moving through it. And one of the things that has become very apparent through the last couple of months as I've been working with clients and doing some release work is movement is key. To release, we need to move. It's similar to, when you've got a pain in your shoulder or you've got a stiff leg, you have to move it, do the exercises. And so when we feel things coming up, we often tend to want to go very, very stiff, and we try and push it all down. But this requires movement. That's why things like exercise or dance or even just breathing exercises, anything that creates a movement that allows yourself to feel anything that needs to be felt. And if there's some patterns that you keep repeating in your life, you may well need somebody who can help you identify where the pain originates, which can include past lives. And so tonight we'll have a look at what do you need to release? Where does it come from? What do you need to break up with? And particularly self-sabotaging patterns, or patterns where we sacrifice ourselves, or patterns where we suppress our words. It's a huge time to shift this, to get unstuck. So that is what we need to pay attention to this week. Let yourself feel the pain. Right, so the card that then comes forward in terms of supporting this. Oh, I love it. I just love my job. Really, really, really do. I have to say that. Is turn and face your future. Your past does not define you. I cannot find a better card for talking about karmic release. Let's feel the pain. Let's move this crap. Let's deal with it. Let's look it in the face. Let's move it so that we can turn and face our future, because you do not need to keep recreating what you've been doing. Yeah? The only thing that brings the past back into reality is because we have not processed it. We've suppressed it. And so we keep recycling, as I've been talking about it. And so every morning we wake up with a fresh slate. It's a new day. You can create anything you want to create. But the mind holds on to the memory. The mind holds on to the fear. The mind holds on to what I don't want to repeat. And the universe does not understand I don't want. And so this idea of trying to avoid certain things almost holds in place the probability of us creating it. And so, as we stand here at the brink of trying to recreate a new way of living in the world, of treating people with kindness and compassion and equality, we need to notice, what are the stories we're perpetuating? What are the things we have on autopilot, on repeat? We need to understand the things we express, the words we say, create our reality. And what are the stories of your past that you keep talking about? Now, this is not me letting go of things that are good for you and nostalgic, because if it's creating a more magical, empowered, beautiful, grateful life, well, then keep doing that. But when we hold on to things and we keep repeating things that have happened in the past, sometimes we need to honor it, witness it, and let it be there, and change the narrative. So let's talk about the past with new words, with words of forgiveness, with words of compassion, with words of kindness, with words of honoring, rather than words of anger and pain. So when it comes to your own story, what's the stories you need to let go of or rewrite? Because your past does not define you. Your past is in this rearview mirror. Your future lies in all this possibility. So, what opportunities exist this week? Remove the doubt. Remove the doubt. So, this story they've been giving, or this explanation they've been giving about how we continue to recreate things over and over again, and if we allowed ourselves to be free of the way we are thinking or feeling or expressing things from the past, and reframed it into a new story, that it creates this new possibility and allows us to move forward in a way that we never have before, is something that feels in a couple of ways too easy sometimes. Like, we must honor the power, you must guard yourself from things to be repeated, etc., etc. And so there's this paradox of releasing things and letting them be where they are so we can create what we want to create. But the mind doubts that that's possible. The ego wants to protect us from pain, and ego wants to protect us from getting into trouble, and the ego wants to protect us from getting hurt. And so the doubt is a way of holding in mind this sort of pessimism or this insecurity or this not necessarily always negativity, but we're almost taught to be smart, we must be doubtful. Don't trust too easily. You must not be naive. It's a story that we typically have. But why not? Why not? Like, what if that's going to be the very thing that frees us, that allows us to be free to move forward? And so the doubts, when we remove doubts, the thing that gets replaced is faith. Faith will trump doubt. Faith will trump, and faith and trust will trump it, will bring it to a new possibility. And so how do we be discerning and wise and connected to something that is valuable, to making new choices and making new decisions We don't need to come from the place of doubting ourselves, doubting our power, doubting the world, but really, really, really allowing ourselves to step into a place of possibility. And I'm not talking about blind faith. I'm talking about discernment. I'm talking about staying connected to the part of you that knows how to navigate through this. Because you do need to understand, and this is really an important thing for all of us to remember, is when we're connected to our light, when we're connected to our spirit, when we're connected to the part of us that is divinely guided, you can get through whatever you need to get through. You can find a new path. And so learning to trust ourselves with new footsteps. When you walk a new path, yeah, when you go a new way, yeah, you need to be awake, you need to be connected, and you need to pay attention, but you don't need to be doubtful. You just need to be present. So there you have it. Wow. How's that for you? So, sure, I can just feel so much power coming through the messages tonight. I'm not sure if you can feel it. All right, so let us have a look at who would like a reading tonight. So for those of you that are new here, welcome. For those of you that have been here many times, welcome back. And I always enjoy connecting with all of you. Just to let you know how it works is I do not scroll back up, so keep asking if you would like a reading, and I get guided to choose people whose reading is going to most serve the greatest good of everybody. What that means, very specifically, is listen to other people's readings, because there may well be messages that come through other people's readings that resonate with you. So if I don't choose you, it does not mean I don't love you. It does not mean you're not guided or supported and loved. It means that there may well be a message that's come forward through somebody else's reading, or through the general reading. Right, so let us get going. Let us get started. So good to have so many here. Yes, it has been so long, Renee. All right, Christine van Staden, let's start with you. All right, Christine van Staden, let's see what your guides would like to tell you tonight. Okay. Oh, Sharon, that's lovely. I love you too, darling. Lovely. I love you no matter. Oh, thank you, Malgo. That's awesome. All right. So, Christine, step forward with grace is your card. Step forward with grace. All right, so let's see how your guides want to come forward with this. So I'm not sure the reason for this, but I'll just give you the messages as it comes forward. Your guides step forward, your male and your female guides step forward together, and they step forward almost looking like they're in a three-legged race. So I'm not sure if you remember that as a child, or if you've been to a child sort of, what's they called, sports days and that sort of thing. The three-legged race where there's two people and they got their arms around each other and they tie their legs on the inside to each other. So we've got the person on the left with their leg and they tie these two legs together, and you've got to try and walk together. And that three-legged race is quite a funny thing, because there's this need to try and build up some kind of momentum, but you've got to work together, and you've got to work quite intuitively together, and feel each other as you move forward. And so this idea of partnering up and pairing up so that becomes something that's not awkward and something that's not too disruptive, otherwise you're going to fall over, and really allowing that to walk together, to be in unison. And so when they give me the step forward with grace, they really are bringing forward this message very strongly, is where do you need to be partnering up, and then working nicer together. Sorry, that's very bad English, but this way they're talking. Working better with those that you're in partnership with, so that you can find the elegance, that you can move together, that one's not pulling in one direction, the other one pulling in the other direction. And they're showing this message from two perspectives for you. Firstly, they are showing it in terms of a relational kind of thing. So I'm not sure if that's within the relationships romantically or relationships at home, but there does also seem to be a work component to it. So working together with the people that you're partnering with, not pulling in opposite directions. Imagine trying to get to the end of the race together, standing up, helping each other, moving along. And then there's also this tendency to notice the parts of you internally that need to be working together. So that grace, the elegance of watching a team that just almost like synchronized swimming, or synchronized diving, where you've got to work together so it's beautifully done. That requires presence and requires connection to the other person. And the more disconnected you are, and the more you're pulling or wanting to do things just by yourself, the less harmonious that's going to be. So where they're saying, do you need to value the idea of partnering and working with and finding the elegance and the flow with others as you step forward. So I hope that makes sense for you, my darling. That is the message that they have for you tonight. So just remember, they are giving messages about what needs to be faced for the messages overall. Where do you need to release wounds from the past, and so on and so forth. Right, let's see who is next. Right, Tanya. Let's see what your guides want to tell you tonight, Tanya. All right, let's see. All right, Tanya, the message that's come forward for you, my love, is pleasure, Christine. I hope it makes sense for you, my love. Judgment keeps you separate. Judgment keeps you separate. So Tanya, when you see this card, there's a couple of things that they're wanting to point out to you as a starting point. Firstly, this card comes from the suit of cards that says there is only love. And this is the Merkaba that is there. The Merkaba is a symbol around the spirit and the mind and the body all being connected together. I simplify it dramatically for tonight. And then when we have a look at this, we see these two people on this bridge, and they're facing each other. So there's a real seeing of each other. There's a real willingness to want to come together. But there's this separation, this void that's created because of the judgment. And the judgment is about who is right and who is wrong. And so this idea that the more I stand in analysis of something and criticism of something and judgment of something, and judgment could be simply not always good or bad, but it could be I like or don't like, or it's right or it's wrong. It's anywhere where we are creating a sort of interpretation of what's going on rather than an embracing of what's going on. Whenever we interpret anything, it gives a mind something to attach to, and we start to create stories from that. Now, if you remember at the beginning of the reading, we were talking about changing the stories, and so judgment holds pattern in place and stories in place, and we love judgments. Humans, the mind can do nothing else. It knows only how to go like, oh, I like that, I don't like that, that's good, that's bad, I want that, I don't want that, this is right, this is wrong. The mind does it all the time. The heart doesn't value it. And so the heart values connection. It wants things to come together. And we have to challenge our own judgments or notice our own judgments. Now, what is happening for you, and the reason that this card has come forward very specifically, is it's the judgment you have of yourself that keeps you separate from your own divine light. Yeah? So the judgment you have of yourself keeps you separate from your own light. Yeah? So every time you have a story in your mind about you being bad or you being good or you being right or you being wrong, you being the good girl or the bad girl or whatever it is every time you do that, there's a separation that exists from you connecting to your spirit, because you're just you. And connecting to the wholeness of you is really important. So they're saying it's time to notice the internal judgments you have of yourself. And the only way to release this is Matt Kahn, who's a lovely teacher, spiritual teacher. He has a book, I think that says more love, not less. More love, not less. And so that's what they're giving you. More love, not less. All right, so let's see there. All right, Renee Lucas. I feel I'm at a crossroads. Please help. Okay, perfect. Let's see what's happening at the crossroads. Right. Oh, lots of the tribe members are online tonight. See you all there. Let's see. Okay. Pleasure, Tanya. I hope that works for you. All right, Renee. It's going to very much align with the message that was given earlier for the overall message. The card that you've got is feel it, deal with it, heal it. Now, if you've been watching since the beginning, the card for the week is let yourself feel the pain. And then we've got feel it, deal with it, heal it. And if you have a look there, there's a sort of pile of ash and then this beautiful rose coming out of there. It's a little bit of a phoenix from the flame kind of energy. Is what needs to what needs to be faced or felt so that it can almost die away, and so something new can be born from that. And so the way your guides come forward is they present themselves in such a way that, like, they're dressed for an adventure. If you think of going on, I don't know why they're giving me this message this way, but okay, is around the world in 40 days, where that explorer is going around the world, and he's getting ready to go in the hot air balloon and travel around the world in the hot air balloon in 40 days. And if we understand the predominant reason that he wanted to do that, I think his name was Fogg or something, Phineas Fogg or something, the only reason that he wanted to do that was because he was told that he can't, or that it's not possible to be done, and that created this defiance in him, and he went off and proved in a way that he could do it, and that resulted in this grand adventure for him. But the grand adventure was not about the defiance; it was about the belief to do something different. And so they present themselves very much dressed up for that kind of adventure, and really. They've got this compass, and the compass is about following the flow, following the direction, as opposed to, there's no map. So they don't have a map. There's not like a go left, go right. There's a compass of find the north, find the direction. It depends where you're wanting to go. And to notice, and whenever they give me a compass, it's more about listening to your own guidance, listening to your intuition. It's not following the map that has been done by everybody before you, but listening to the guidance that comes forward to forge your own path, to go on your adventure, to do what it is that you long and yearn to do, and to do that with, not out of defiance, not like the 40 days. Do it out of desire for what is good for you. Do it because it is the gift of your heart. Follow your intuition. Now, your intuition is not your fear. Your intuition is a silent voice that often your mind cannot or does not want to listen to. When I say it's a silent voice, the reason I say that is because you have to sit in silence to hear it. to find that voice of your intuition. Right, so there you go. I hope that makes sense for you, Renee. It sounds like you're on the brink of some kind of great adventure. Adventure's not always the easiest thing, but definitely worthwhile. Okay, let us see. Karen or Karen, right? I think I've asked you this 100 times, whether you're Karen or Karen. Okay, Karen, right? Let's see what your guys want to tell you. Just let me know if you can. I don't know how. Oh, good, Renee. I'm glad that helped. All right. So I'm going to say, see, I had a friend whose name was Karen, and it was spelled this way. So that's why I'm always in the Karen or Karen. Oh, what's happened? Are you all there? All right. Okay, it disappeared for a second, but looks like we're all back. So good job. We'll just keep going. All right. So the card that's come forward for you is be brave. Be brave. Be brave. Okay, Karen. Thank you, Karen. As in car. Good job. Great explanation. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So Karen, your card that's come forward is be brave. And it comes from the suit about choice is yours to make, and this is all about expansion, about really allowing yourself. When you see the Fibonacci spiral, which is there, the Fibonacci spiral is all about this natural expansion into the world, and so being able to make the choices that expand yourself. So the big message I'm getting, like when your female guide comes forward, she keeps coming forward and she's like opening up like this, and she keeps making herself bigger. And this is a very strong message. It seems to be about it's no longer time to play small. So this is really about noticing where you are holding yourself back and you're containing yourself and you're playing small, is the bravery to be expanded. And that expansion could be simply in letting your voice be heard at the dinner table. It could be about speaking up to a friend about an idea you have. It could be about wearing different clothes. It could be about, not following the norm on everything, but doing something the way you want to do it, and getting that attention that comes with being yourself, with being you. Whenever we are ourselves, people notice, and that noticing is something we need to get comfortable with, because some will like and some won't like. And that does not mean approval or disapproval. It just means noticing. And so learning to be brave enough to be seen for your light, for your authenticity. I seem to get this real sort of idea of breaking free of the mold. And I don't know why they're giving this so strongly, but it's something about dressing the way you want to dress, or wearing your hair the way you want to wear it, or like just doing it, wear the earrings you want to wear, wear the makeup. I don't know. It's something about expressing yourself the way you want to express yourself, rather than fitting in and making sure it's all tolerable, good girl. Like, what do you want to do that's you? What do you want to do that's just you? So I hope that makes sense for you. Right. All right, let's see if they will answer this. For some reason they are. Angela Carney. A bit personal, but really need some words of wisdom. I'm involved in an emotionally and financially exhausting legal battle. I'm desperate to know if I must stick it out. Some guidance would be a blessing. Some days I believe I need to stand strong, but other days I feel as if I need to. All right, let's pack it all in. All right, let's see. And I'm not normally a fan, and if you know me very well, I will not give guidance on, and I mean, even now, I'm not going to give guidance on what to do. It's not going to be stay or go. What will come forward, because that's the way it works when you're working for lights, is what is this about for you and what is it you need to notice and pay attention to. So the decision of what to do is yours and yours alone. Right, let me see what it is that. All right, so Angela, let's see. The card that's come forward is you need to take the first step. You need to take the first step. And again, you're going to see here this, it's from the, you need to take the first step, or the choice is yours to make, a suit. And there's the Fibonacci spiral, so there is about growth here. When I connect in and when your guides come forward, and I know this is going to sound like a weird way to say what I'm going to say, and in no way want to disrespect or dismiss what's going on for you, but it's almost the way they show it to me is like, you know, when somebody starts binge watching a series. My daughter, I think about a year or two ago, she decided she wanted to binge watch Grey's Anatomy. And so Grey's Anatomy has a profound amount of episodes and series and seasons. And so it went on for months that we just watched and heard about Grey's Anatomy and heard the music to Grey's Anatomy, and everything she said and did was about Grey's Anatomy, and every free moment was about Grey's Anatomy, and she loved that, and that's absolutely fine. But what starts to happen is a whole world becomes about Grey's Anatomy, to the extent that she'll start self-diagnosing and start doing all sorts of things, and you know, you start to almost develop intimate relationships with the characters and so on and so forth. And we all have, in some way, shape, or form, some way that we connect with something like that, where we binge watch or we get so connected to something that it consumes us. And when they show me this trial that's going on in your life, that's the way they're showing it. It's almost an obsession. It's the only thing that is focused on in your life and thought about for lots of good reasons. And there's no need to say that that's right or wrong or good or bad. They're just giving that perspective. And so this obsession means that everything else is getting lost in your life. There isn't, it starts to become the only thing you think about, the only thing you talk about, the only thing you worry about, the only thing going on. And that is holding it in a very strong pattern of it's almost feeding it in many ways. And so as difficult as this guidance is going to be, or as difficult as this guidance could be, is the minute you put this into the perspective of it's a piece of your life, not all of your life, and notice what else you can start bringing into your life. So this could be as simple as go out for one night with a friend and not talk about it. You know? Talk about everything else. Tell them, I don't want to talk about it. If I bring it up, distract me. And start to notice the other aspects of your world that could start feeding a little bit more energy, because this is quite draining. And so we need to find some things that start to energize. Because when you can get that energy back, things can start to flow, because it's very stuck, because it's all consuming. And so if you can let it unfold, let the lawyers do what lawyers do, and it creates as much opportunity as you can to allow yourself to have other moments of freedom away from this. And I understand and acknowledge that that's not always easy. The more you can do that, the more you can fuel a flow of energy in you, and that can help unstuck this. This can help it move forward, because there are other things in your life that you can focus on too. So good luck, good luck, good luck, good luck. I hope that resonates and makes sense for you, my darling. All right, so let us see. And really, that's a powerful message for anybody, is that anything that is stuck, you probably are feeding by being so focused on it in the pain of it, the worry of it, the trauma of it, the difficult. If there's something in your life that it's the only thing you think about, talk about, act on, the only way to shift it is to put it into perspective that it's not the only thing, and bring in other things in your life so that you can start to have energy flowing within you again. Right, so let us see. Okay, good, Angela. I'm glad that that makes sense for you. Vanessa, let's see what's going on. It can drive you crazy, you're right. And we all have them, and it's true for all of us. So, sending you all lots of love. All right, let us see what message we've got for Vanessa. So anything to do with Matthew's situation. Okay, Vanessa, so the message coming forward, and this is the thing that needs to be most heard, is to own the part you're playing. And this is not own the part necessarily, well, it is. It's owning the part you're playing, but also it's about owning the part that Matthew's playing. But Matthew needs to take accountability for how he is contributing to the situation that is going on for him. Now, that doesn't mean he's creating it. It does not mean he's to blame for it. It does not mean that there's any fault. But noticing what his own energetic blueprint is in this and how he fuels what's going on in his own life, there's an accountability need. Take accountability. Nothing can shift in our lives if we don't take accountability. And one of the ways we do not take accountability is through blame, blaming others. And this is something we all do, is we tend to want to focus on what somebody else is doing rather than what I'm doing. And if we're focusing on blame, then the idea of blaming ourselves starts to come up, and blaming ourselves is also not useful. Blame is not accountability. Accountability is wisdom. It's the ability to step back and notice how I am contributing to something, and then I can play the part differently, so I can make a new choice. And to do this is difficult when we're stuck in something that seems to be quite difficult and raw, as it is for Matthew. And we're not going to talk about the situation Matthew's in. I know about it, obviously, because we've connected before. But the most important message they're saying is there's a need to own the part that's being played. And when we look at the suit, it's from the own the part you play suit, and it's about that infinity symbol of what am I feeding into this, and the feed forward and feedback loop. That is quite important. Now, for you specifically, it's the same card, is to notice to what extent is there an idea or a possibility of shifting the part you play. Because, you know, we see this person on the stage here, and no person really is ever on the stage alone. There's always a whole lot of people supporting them, whether they're on stage or backstage, doesn't matter. There's all these things. And one of the things that's a real challenge is to notice how we're co-starring in people's lives. One of the ways I've heard it spoken about before, and they bring it up here again, is that how are you co-authoring the story? To what extent, if there's a story going in my life, to what extent are the friends and the family and the people in my life co-authoring that? And where do you need to break up with what you're co-authoring? Because in that and that could be even in the idea of challenging, or in the idea of noticing something that may not be working, is to shift the narrative, shift the story of how you're participating in this. That could shift things for you as well. So I hope that makes sense, my darling. I hope that resonates for you. Sending you lots of love. Right. Natasha Koo. Me, please. Go, stay, work, kids. Are these all different questions or the same question? Are you asking, must I go or stay at work? Or should you have kids or not have kids? Let's see what they bring up. if there's some clarity on your question, Natasha, you can post it. Oh, good, Vanessa. I'm glad it makes sense, my darling. Send you so much love. I'll see you on Sunday. All right, so Natasha, let's see. Let's just see if there's any clarity you're posting around what your question is. All right, Natasha, the card that's come forward for you, I'm not 100% sure of the question there, but let's just see what the card that comes forward is. It's safe for you to receive. It's safe for you to receive. And receiving is a very feminine energy. The ability to receive is to be receptive. If we think of being receptive, it's like an opening up energy. I open up so I can receive in. I open my hand so I can receive. When we're quite closed, then or withdrawn, then it's a very sort of it's a closed energy, and that means that there isn't space for things to get in. And if we think about it quite simply, if you try and give somebody a compliment and they're quite closed, they don't receive it. And so to relax enough to be receptive is probably one of the hardest things for many people, because it's much easier for us to think of ourselves as giving or being in control, or like, we want to be loving people and giving people, but the idea of being receptive is difficult for us. And when we notice this tree, the tree is really, it can only get as strong as it is through its ability to receive water and sunlight and nutrients and all these things. And in that process, it cracks open and gets very strong. But if the seed never received anything, it really wouldn't be able to grow at all. And so sometimes we get very sort of stuck, and we perpetuate the same patterns because we're quite closed to receiving guidance, receiving love, receiving support, receiving gifts, receiving help, receiving whatever, receiving a compliment, receiving handouts, whatever it is that we're needing to receive. And so when your questions are being positioned, your guides keep showing, how can you receive what's been on offer to you? How do you make yourself more available to receive what you want? And if we just think about the sort of act of sex, or the act of falling pregnant, it's a receptive energy. It's an opening up and allowing ourselves to receive inwards. And so all that energy of softening and opening and allowing and receiving, that's what they would offer you is available to do. Right, so all right, so Carol, I don't know how this happened, but your comment got pinned without me pinning it, so that means that you are clearly the guys want me to give you a message, because as I was unpinning one comment, your comment just arrived there pinned. So Carol's Josie, finding your freedom. What I've been praying about the whole week, maybe I'm close. I wonder if Spirit has a direct message for me. Clearly they do. All right, let's see what your guys want to tell you, Carol. Okay, let's see. All right, Carol, the message that's coming forward for you. Sorry, I just want to finish off with Natasha. I have 3 living kids. One is with God. Any message from him? So, I mean, the message keeps being validated in terms of soften and receive, and allow yourself to receive it. That's really, really the key message that comes forward directly. When I connect with him, He says that he sends you messages all the time, and that it's this receive. If you allow yourself to believe the messages that are being received from him, it seems to me that he seems to show up in. He's quite an innovative little soul. He seems very young. I'm not sure how old he was when he passed, but he seems young in the way he's coming forward. So he seems to come forward in your dreams, and he seems to have quite a playful spirit, and he seems to use animals quite significantly to bring forward messages to you. So when I say animals, it could be birds, but it could also be rodents. I'm not sure what rodents are about, if that's something that's going on in your life, but there's something about like rodents, rats and mice and bats. I don't know why bats. So he says, watch for the messages. He seems to use animals quite a lot. All right, Carol, let us see what your guys want to tell you. The message has come forward is release the shame. Now, isn't it beautiful? You say you've been praying the whole week about your freedom. The card that comes forward here is the self-imposed prison that we keep ourselves in because of a sense of guilt or shame. And this could be a sense of regret even, or the idea that there's something wrong with you, the idea that you should be different. And whenever there's a tendency for us to want to focus on our own perfection, then we can have quite a lot of shame. What happens with this is that perfection as a strategy, if we think about it, is we create in our mind a version of ourselves that is perfect, the version of ourselves tomorrow that is more perfect than the version of ourselves that exists today. And we keep chasing after this version of ourselves that we think is better than the current version of ourselves, the real version of ourselves that's here. So when I'm thinner, when I'm this, when I'm that, when I'm this, we have this illusion of perfection that we chase. And in this illusion of perfection, when we chase it, the idea that there's something wrong with ourselves comes forward continuously. And then that holds us in a very, very shameful place, and we just constantly look at like not being good enough, and that's the shadow side of perfection, is this absolute feeling of disillusionment with ourselves, that we're not good enough, and really starting to free ourselves up from that, to focus on what's the perfection of today rather than what's the illusion of perfection that I'm chasing. And so in order for you to find your freedom, you need to be able to look in the mirror and value yourself for who you are today. And break up with the idea that there is something wrong with you that needs to be made better, to be better at something, to pursue something that is not necessarily accurate or true, and to allow yourself to love yourself as you are. And when you can love yourself as you are, the process of freedom means that you open up to being able to explore and expand into more and more and more of your light, and more and more of your joy. So Carol, I hope that message makes sense for you and is what you needed to hear. I don't know what was going on the reading at that point. I saw there was up to 70 people watching, and now we're down to 20, so I'm not sure if it's all working okay, but let's see. All right, let's see who's next. Yentl. Pleasure, Natasha. Yentl. Okay. Oh, good, Carol. I'm glad that it resonates for you, my darling. All right, so let us see, Yentl, what the message is for you. Right. Okay, Yentl, the card that's coming forward for you is connect back to source. Connect back to source. It's from the suit that is all about owning the part you play to some extent. A lot more about the sort of connecting back to your own intuition, connecting back to your truth, connecting back to yourself. And so the thing that comes forward for you, Yentl, is that you have moments of deep connection to yourself. Really, there seems to be like almost this, it's like they give me this pattern for you, like deep connection, and then disconnect away, and then deep connection, and those moments of connection seem to be linked to like a deeper reverence of the divine, like an immersion in the beauty of life, and the gratitude and amazing ability for life to be exactly what you want it to be. And you have these moments of euphoria, these moments of feeling so inspired and grateful and connected. And then suddenly there's moments of complete and utter, it feels like despair. And so there's sort of like a little bit of this emotional roller coaster that seems to be experienced sometimes through this illusion of absolute perfection, down to this disillusionment or despair that things aren't the way you want them to be. And so when they say that these are moments of deep connection, it is not 100% true, because the connection would mean that there would be almost like a way of honoring perspective. What that means is when we're truly connected to the divine, we're able to look at the things that we don't like with the lens of love, as well as the things we like. We don't ignore those things and have just deep gratitude for what's beautiful. We have gratitude for what's painful. We have gratitude for what's not working. We have gratitude for things that are different or difficult as well. And so allowing yourself to stay connected even when things are tough, or things are tougher, or things aren't the way you want them to be, that is the gift of remaining open-hearted, and not just applying it in the good times, so to speak, but holding that same sort of energy and frequency through moments or hours or days where you feel like things aren't the way you want them to be. Staying connected to that love at that point is important for you. I hope that makes sense for you, my darling. All right, Sharon, I'm not sure they're going to answer your question directly, because let's see what they tell you. What's happening at the moment with work? Finances change with the most pressing questions, kids schooling, what does Spirit want us to know? All right, let's see. Remember that, this is not, oh, good, Gentle, I'm glad. They're not going to say yes or no, because the free will to make your decisions is yours to make. But let's see what message they give you from the perspective. All right, so the message that's coming forward, this one for the second card. All right, that makes sense. They just tell me to pull two cards for you. The first card that's come forward is have faith, but the second card that's come forward is you need to take the first step. So when we take these two cards together, so have faith is a really important card. It's about faith that that things can be what you want them to be. The challenge with faith is if it's faith without action, and that's why they said take this other card, well, then it's just blind faith. So the idea, so if I had a look, and so there's the way, if I was sitting at home and I had no food, and and I had no money in my bank account, and I was sitting there and I had faith that I'm going to have a meal tonight. Nobody's going to knock on your door and just give you the food. I may need to go out and ask someone, or do something, or make some money, or go and offer my services, or do something, because faith and action work together. It's called inspired action. And when I act in faith, when I take action in faith, then miracles can unfold. We can create whatever we want to create. And there seems to be a need for you to hear this message from this perspective, that what do you need to do? What's the action that needs to be taken for things to manifest the way you want them to manifest? And this is not necessarily about having to struggle or do things in a difficult way, but it is about not living in an illusion of something miraculous would happen. Miracles only happen when there's action. Miracles only happen when there's action. And so the perspective of where do we need to take action? What do we need to do for things? And there's a divine law called the law of action. When we act with faith, because when we act with doubt, it's a whole different thing. So remember, we were talking about doubt at the beginning of the reading. When I act in doubt, miracles do not happen. When I act in faith, then miracles can happen. So it is this real sort of noticing, what is it that you need to do for this to manifest the way that you want to do it? So I hope that makes sense. I know when you're in a difficult situation, you want a yes/no answer, but it's not the way that the guides work. All right, so that brings us to the end of tonight's readings. It's been awesome connecting with all of you. It's been a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful evening, and I've really enjoyed being back. Okay. All right, perfect, Sharon. I'm glad that makes sense to you. So that brings us to the end of tonight. I'll be back next Monday. Sending you all so much love. Have an awesome week. And I'll see you on the other side. Namaste.